welcome to ArenaFan Live. I am Tim Capper along with John Stark. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Welcome to ArenaFan Live. I'm hearing myself. Feedback.
No, YouTube. I had the YouTube pulled
You
up.
YouTube on. That's. Are we sure we know technology? I don't think so,
No,
right?
no.
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I mean, it's this. I guess we could say for a lot of fans of Arena, especially the Arena Football League. What was announced this morning, and we're talking early this morning. Especially if you're out on the West Coast and stuff like that. It's a day that we've been waiting for because I think it actually just goes to show that this league actually is going to. It is going to have a kickoff. It is going to be on TV. It is, you know what I mean? Hopefully to put a lot of the naysaying behind and stuff like that. But hey, I'm all for what was announced today, and I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that we're going to get.
Oh, certainly. The news this morning is fantastic. People have been waiting for that since right before the Super Bowl when I think it was the commissioner said that after the Super Bowl they would be announcing broadcast information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, and everybody took it the way that it was, and my whole thing was, if they said after the Super Bowl, what today? It's after the Super Bowl. It's after the Super Bowl, but I think what people have to understand too is that, and this is something that I heard from the get-go, is that this whole release itself was being controlled by the NFL and NFL Network, and I think there are a couple of things that had to be fixed up too. I think it may have been, maybe the Philly situation, the arena situation there, maybe with Georgia. They just wanted to get a few more things that were actually set in stone, so to speak, so that they could go ahead and make the announcement. And they did it at the right time. They didn't want it to get bogged down by, doing it on Monday when free agency was. You had the combine last week. You didn't want to really get into that because it would have been lost in the shuffle. You don't want to do a release at 5 p.m. on a Friday because it'll be lost in the shuffle for sure. So I mean, that's when there's something you don't want released and people to see, you release it at 5 o'clock on a Friday. So
Yeah, yeah.
So they did, they did it, man, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy that they released it. We're going to go over the schedule itself. We're going to, a few of the things that stand out to us. I was able to get some kind of insight too as to I think one of the big questions that people are asking, John, is that is the AFL paying for this broadcast? And anybody who knows arena football has known in the years past that, whether it's been CBS Sports Network, whether it been it may be slightly different with NBC and stuff like that, John, but did they actually pay? Were they actually making any money? Are they going to make any money off of this thing? And we'll get to that. Don't want to really get into that right now. We'll get into the once we start and get into the meat of the things. So, first and foremost, John, I mean, it's surprising to all of us is that they released this thing at 5 a.m. LA time because that's where NFL Network is based out of Pasadena. Yeah. It was released at 8 a.m. local. 8 a.m. Eastern time. And I was like, I had been given a little bit of a heads up. So I was up, even though I'm currently on staycay. So I was up. I was like, man, I was hoping it was going to be on NFL Network. It wasn't on NFL Network, but it was just obviously, as everybody knows, it was by press release and stuff like that. So,
sure.
But I was okay with that. I mean, I don't think I had mentioned it. I don't know if you'd heard anything or not, but when was the first time that you heard that the schedule was going to be coming out today, or did you hear that it had been released?
Just some rumblings from you in our group chat on Facebook Messenger. Honestly, that's about it. It was a surprise to me this morning. As soon as we posted it on ArenaFan, I started reposting it in several places. It's definitely excited to see. I read the whole press release. I skimmed over that OT7 thing entirely.
Yeah, I know.
But that's a lot of games.
Yeah, that is a lot of games. I mean, 30 games off the rip, man. I mean, going to be broadcast on the NFL Network. And if anybody happened to see the post that we put out on social media, I mean, 30 games, dude, on one network in one season. That's fourth. That's fourth on the list all time, just behind the NBC days. Because if you think about it, a lot of these games, they're not necessarily going to be a regional doubleheaders like NBC had, but it's 3 games a weekend or 3 games a week. Sorry, third being
Yeah.
mainly being Thursdays and Sundays, and I can't complain. But I mean, but as everybody saw with the slow releases and slow changes that some of these teams had with their updates to their schedules, I think we kind of knew that a lot of these games were going to be specifically Thursday and Sunday games.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some Thursday night football.
That's a plus too, man. I mean,
Yeah.
having a dedicated day to have arena football broadcasts, and I would imagine that would be their number one broadcast team, which we're going to talk about here, and also I'll let the guys in the chat talk about it also. By the way, if you are in the chat, go ahead and make sure you do comment. Let us know what you guys are thinking. We'll bring up some of your questions here and your comments throughout the show. We are going to be going until right before 9 p.m. because if you guys don't know, Commissioner Lee Hutton is going to be a guest on the Arena Football League's podcast on YouTube. So we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to listen to hear what Commissioner Hutton has to say and maybe answer some questions that we may bring up tonight. So as I said, we'll finish up right before 9 p.m. Eastern time. So first things that stood out to you, and we'll bring up the schedule here in a couple of seconds here, John. First things that stood out to you besides the sheer number of games that were on the schedule itself. Anything else that stood out?
Hot topic. Hot topic. Philadelphia Soul home games being broadcast. That definitely stood out to me. I was actually looking for that because I've been a little bit of a doubter for 6+ months in regards to them having home games.
No, and it was a fair concern. It really was a
Yes.
fair concern because, as much as I would love to, everybody is going to have, a balanced home away schedule. It looks like this year, for whatever reason, it's not going to be the case. We did see that with Albany. We did see that with Orlando. I think Orlando was one of the first teams that we found out that was going to have an extra. It was going to have a 7-5 schedule split, home and away split. As far as we know, it was an issue when it came to getting dates, and I guess we could use the arena in Philadelphia, John, specifically because Wells Fargo is a very, very busy arena, and
Yes.
just getting in there and getting dates. I would imagine that they were trying to nab some of the dates that were at the end of the season where it wasn't as busy. But then again, it came to the other games that they wanted to schedule. So I'm very happy to hear that they are going to have a home schedule. As we found out the other day, it's not going to be at the Wells Fargo. It is actually going to be over at the Cure Insurance Arena over in Trenton, New York, New Jersey.
Right.
New Jersey. It will be the second time that the Soul have actually played there. The first time was for the Rock and Jock game between them and the Las Vegas Outlaws. So they'll be returning there. Have you ever been to that arena, John?
No, not the Cure Insurance Arena. I have not.
Okay. Nor have I. I mean, it would have been cool if they had gone over to Atlantic City, but that would have been a little bit farther away to go to Atlantic City, but still. We do know, at least from what we've heard from announcements and the schedule, looks like obviously 2 will be specific to the Philadelphia home arena. Those were shown on the schedule itself from the NFL Network and the league, and also it looks like there's probably going to be one more. I could fathom. I guess it might be. I think it's the Georgia game. I think it's going to be the Georgia game that is going to be played in Philadelphia rather than in Georgia. If I'm remembering the schedule properly, because I don't have it here in front of me yet, but I'm okay with that. You know what? To be honest with you, dude, 3 is better than none.
It is, and in this iteration of the Arena Football League, for us to have so many teams compared to 2017, 2018, 2019, we're almost spoiled.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the history itself. I mean, we had ESPN, we've had the NFL Network before, we've had You name it, we've had it. I don't think there's going to be any local broadcasting at all. And I will say why here in a couple of minutes, because if you happen to watch the Predators coach, I guess I'll call it a coach's show before we started tonight, there was a little bit of a tidbit that you may have missed. But I have to look into it a little bit more, obviously. But um, and again, Brian brings up a good point too. You have Louisiana, who has an technically an 8-3, but it really is it's a 7-3 split because they have one preseason game for Minnesota also there, and they themselves announced recently that it looks like they're going to be at two different arenas also. So and let me ask you that. What is your thought, John, on these teams having more than one arena as their home arena?
I think there's two schools of thought on this in terms of how you can look at it. One, you could take it positively and say, well, it's going to allow a better fan base because you're going to be moving around a bit and you're going to have people from one city or one part of town able to come to the game without having to travel too far,
Mm-hmm.
and another part of the metro area go to games. Another way to look at it is that they couldn't secure an arena for the full season, whether it be because of conflicting schedules or because of cost. We don't know. It's probably subjective and specific to each individual team circumstance. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm hoping that it's so that there's more ability, better fan base, larger fan base.
Mm-hmm. I think that I honestly think that this multiple arena thing, and this is just my opinion, is that it'll just be a 2024 thing. I don't think it'll be an issue for 2025 because, as an example, having a year in advance, if they want, say, if Philadelphia wants to go to Wells Fargo in 2025, they would have more of a shot of being able to do so because the dates are basically, I would imagine for 2025, they're basically, they're open. But I
Yeah,
think
as of now, yeah.
and I think what people and this is just me having such as much history as I know about the Arena Football League, and people complaining specifically that, oh well, you've only have why not just one arena and stuff like that. If you're not a longtime AFL fan, you would not remember that we have had multiple teams in the AFL play at two different arenas in a single season, not just for playoffs like the LA Kiss did. Because I think they played at home in Anaheim, and then they played somewhere else if I remember correctly. But Dallas Desperados, they played in two arenas in 1 year in Dallas. Philadelphia did the exact same thing. They played at the PPL Center over in Allentown. They played the games in Allentown too. So it's happened, but before, even in its quote unquote heyday, where you've had the very well known teams in big cities and to go to and play in different arenas. And I think it's exactly to your point, John, because of scheduling. Because of scheduling, they weren't able to get these other arenas. It's just like, remember the San Jose, the Jacksonville Sharks Arena Bowl? That was played in Stockton. Why? Because the arena was being used in San Jose. Yes, you lose, so to speak, your potentially a home field advantage because it's not really a neutral site game. It still is a home game for San Jose. There's their turf. They brought over their banners, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't go with the argument that it's a bad thing that these teams have multiple arenas. I really don't. I really don't. So,
Speaking of,
yeah.
speaking of,
Mm-hmm.
I was cruising the ArenaFan message boards before the show tonight, and I see some hot takes and some debate over what's going on with the Voodoo and their arena situation, and I clicked on a link, and one of these arenas looks like a barn, and it does horse shows. And how do you feel about that? What do you think is going on with that?
I honestly think I've spoken to a few people. One specifically being Brian, who does live in LA, in Louisiana. Yes, it is true that that is the only pictures that do come up. This is an arena at the casino that
Yeah.
hosts more things than just rodeos. And my take to my example to that is, do, do you call these places horse arenas when you bring in the truck, when you bring in monster trucks, or you bring in BMW bike, the BMW bikes and stuff like,
Motocross.
yeah,
Yeah.
motor, yeah. It's not that. I understand it's a smaller arena. I get that. We have had some teams in the other alphabet leagues actually play in places like this. Wait till the games start. Just wait till the games start. Let's see what happens. I seriously doubt that the league would allow this type of thing to occur, because it could be. If they don't have a concrete floor, it could easily be a huge issue for players. Easily be a huge issue for players. You don't want them to get hurt. What's going to happen with the turf? If this is brand new turf, then what? You know? So I understand the point going around, but I'm saying let's see what happens. See, maybe some more stuff. This place holds 5,000. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with
Because
it. As
then
I
we,
said, I'll just go from there.
yeah, I mean, because we've got the Myth playing at the Target Center, the same arena as the Timberwolves, and that place can hold up to 20,000.
I know. I think, is that going to be the largest arena? Yeah, it's going to be the largest arena in the
Yeah,
league
I
this
think it
year.
will be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the second largest will be Nashville. Think. I think it'll be Nashville, and even though they're playing in the old odd, and then it will be, I think, Albany. I think. Anybody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Um, so let's get to the schedule here, and then we can talk about the few things that we did learn. Let me go ahead and bring this up here, bud. And we'll talk about the schedule stuff. By the way, if anybody doesn't know, you can head over to arenafan.com, click on the schedule section, and all of the current master schedule is there with all updated times and all updated games for NFL Network. So that's one thing you guys can look and go over there, and that's one thing that we've been doing the entire time. We've always been trying to make sure that all that information is there for you, the fans, as best as possible. So here we go. All right. So let's look at this thing. So obviously, I think one of the few things that people are going to talk about, John, is specifically is how many games each of these teams have. And I know I feel bad for the fans in Rapid City, because they don't have a single game on the NFL Network this year. I guess maybe they were a team that they specifically wanted to stay on. I think it's on Saturday games. I think it's what it may have been what it was for them. So. But if you go through the list, which we'll do here, I mean, you have a couple of teams. You have Orlando and Philadelphia and Nashville. They all have 7 games total on TV this year. From there, you have Albany with 6, Georgia, West Texas, and I think that's at 5. I should just go to my tweet that I put out. Anyways. What when you hear that type of thing, obviously you have almost all, you have 15 of 16 teams in the AFL, John, who are going to be on national television in some way, shape, or form. Sure. Positive for the league, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely, and positive for those teams, and some of the teams in their rosters that are going to be televised have some pretty great players, and there could be some thought behind that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that's better for you guys in the chat. It was a little bit small. Thanks for letting me know. Let me see here. So when you go look at the previews, I love the games themselves here. When it comes to, the opener is going to be Albany versus Orlando, as was reported, I think more than a month ago, where you are going to have basically this year is the 25th anniversary of Albany and Orlando playing for the Arena Bowl championship, Arena Bowl 13 in Albany. And I think it's a perfect way to start off the NFL Network broadcast schedule, John, because just bring in, you've been there to MVP Arena, just bring in between, if they can pack that place between 10 and 12,000, that place is going to be loud.
It is. Good old Times Union Center.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it now. I've known it since it's been called the Knickerbocker Arena.
That's right.
And then on Sunday, you have Georgia Force versus West Texas, and then Southwest Kansas versus Salina. Uh, I am happy. I'm looking at these. I'm glad they are actually going to they're going to really put the spotlight on some of the smaller city franchises. Um, because I think that a lot of these places that are going to be hosting do have they have a legacy of their own right, and they will have people show up, even if it is a smaller arena. I would imagine, right, John? I mean, as I said, West Texas. I mean, they're only a couple years old, but Saline has been around forever. Same thing with Southwest Kansas. So
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. And when you've got a smaller arena, it's easier to pack it out.
from there, you have the first Thursday game, and again, they're going to showcase two legacy teams. Albany is going to be playing at Nashville. By the way, what's your thought on all the Thursday games starting at 8 p.m. Eastern?
I think it's a good time to start. It may be a little early for the West Coast, to start a game at 5 p.m., but 8 p.m. is good for me on the East Coast.
Yeah, for sure. Well, don't you remember starting that one Arena Bowl? They started it off in Spokane at 5:30 local. So, I mean, I get it, but it looks like they did a pretty good job when it came to deciding what times they were going to have these games start. West Texas, Orlando, and then the first time for them being on television, the expansion Minnesota Myth, or the new Minnesota Myth, going to be showing themselves off over in Minnesota versus the Philadelphia Soul. I'm kind of liking these early times on the schedule there, John. I mean, 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. It's a
Yeah.
good break in between the two games themselves. I mean, I'm curious to know what's going to happen with some of these games that overlap, where they only give a 2.5 hour window. That makes me wonder if there's going to be something else involved with these NFL Network games just to start. Because remember, he was like some of the games, the old games in a couple years back, where games already in progress, go to station XYZ
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to see the start of the game, that type of thing. So from there, again, Philly, Nashville. First time we're heading out west. They were talking about an early game there. John is talking about West Texas at Washington. That's going to be a 12:30 p.m. Local start time. Again, I guess it's one thing that they're going to have to get used to, right? Are these early start times, especially if they do, because they have a couple of the games out west.
Well, I mean, typically start time for the NFL is 1 p.m. on Sunday, so it's not too far off.
No, that's true. That's true. Orlando, West Texas, is going to be the game to start off week 4. Iowa Rampage gets their first look on May the 19th versus Salina. Philly, Albany, that's rekindling that rivalry between those two cities. And then first time for Oregon and Washington, 5 p.m. local start for those two teams on NFL Network. You and I being out east, it's going to be very interesting to see what it's like for these two teams, and especially to see an arena that we have not seen before.
There's going to be quite a few arenas we haven't seen before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just go through this real quickly. I'll just since everybody's seen the schedules, we'll talk about the games that really are I guess we could say the showcase games of the week to start it off. Oregon, Washington, as I said, Washington at Minnesota in week 6. Here's one of the games that I wanted to talk to you about, John, and this is one of the things where it came up with the issues that we heard earlier in the week and a couple of weeks when it came to Louisiana and Georgia. Originally on the schedule, John, this game itself on June 2nd was listed as Louisiana at Georgia. As we know that there's been a slow start to the Force franchise itself. They are going to be playing. They do have a head coach. I mean, Derek Workmore, one of the old time AFL goats, is going to be their head coach. Again, this game originally was supposed to be played on the current schedule, because if you look at the release itself, it does say it is supposed to be Louisiana at Georgia, but this game was changed recently by an announcement that was done via the Voodoo Magic Facebook page. They had gotten permission to go ahead and put that out. Thoughts on this, John? Because as I said, you go later on in the year, you do have 2 games for Georgia, which they are stated to be forced home games. But if this game has already been changed, unless we hear otherwise, where if the team in Georgia is not going to be playing at the Convocation Center in Atlanta, is it possible that those two road games home games get switched? And dare we say that we have our first road team, which everybody thought was going to be the Philadelphia Soul.
I know I did.
Actually, I did too. And it actually may be the Georgia Force that may be a home team, maybe a road team for the entire year. And by the way, first road team since the Houston Thunder Bears in 2001. That's a correction I'm making from a couple of shows ago. So if that is the case, John, and Georgia is on the road for the entire year, does that put a black eye onto the season itself? Does it put a black eye onto the team itself? Or just does it follow the narrative that we were talking about earlier before, where it came to not being able to get specific dates? Because maybe they wanted to play at, what is it called? The State Farm Center now in Atlanta? Is that what it's called? I know what it used to be called.
Where the Hawks play?
Yeah. I think it's State Farm. I think it's State Farm Arena now, if I remember correctly. But either way, both of us can look it up. But I mean, either way to the point. What's your thought?
State Farm Arena.
Yeah, State Farm Arena.
My thought is that if they switch this June 2nd game, and there's supposed to be a televised game week 10, June 30th, Georgia Force at home, that's only 3.5, 4 weeks out from the game they already switched. Makes me think it could get switched as well, and that game would be a home game for the Firebirds.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the other game, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. I think there's one more game on their docket too. I think for Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody, I'm going to switch over to the Georgia. I'm going to switch over to the Georgia schedule here.
There is a TBA
there we go.
June 22nd for the Force.
Yep.
At home against.
Versus Orlando. Okay. So it is very possible that we are going to see a potential change. I guess we will see what's going to happen. I mean, that whole thing that came out with Philadelphia last week with ownership change, or their ownership dropped out, no information has been widely circulated on what the actual circumstances were. So I'm going to leave it as is, because I can't even fathom a guess. But if it is a case where the league took over the team or whatever it may have been, because it did seem like it was taking Philadelphia forever when it came to securing home dates for Wells Fargo. Maybe it was a league thing, and I'd rather have a league take over a team for a short period of time while they're looking for a new owner, because we do know that these guys are vetting properly. I'd rather them do that than rather this team potentially not play at all in 2024. And that would have been, then you have 15 teams and then yada, 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 and, goes from there.
Don't want to talk about that.
Okay, we won't talk about that. Okay. This is one of the things that was brought up when we talk about the Orlando game. I think it's a perfect segue. Let me go and bring us back in. Bring us back in here, John. Orlando. If anybody happened to watch the Orlando coaches show before ours, that was only that they broadcast on YouTube. On Facebook. They brought up a graphic, and I wasn't able to get a screenshot of it before. It is very possible, besides NFL Network, and this is not speculation. As I said, this is just based on what I saw tonight in the actual graphic that they showed. It looks like the other current, at least one of the other streaming partners for 2024 is going to be DAZN. And anybody don't know that? DAZN, yes. It's spelled DAZN or DAZN for everybody else in the U.S. DAZN is a streaming service that is very well known worldwide. They are known for, I think, boxing, UFC. Correct me if I'm wrong here, John. And in a lot of places, they are known for. They are the rights holders to NFL Sunday Ticket in other countries, including here in Canada. So, if it is DAZN and if it is shown live, my question is this, because that's where I wanted to see the graphic again. Are the Orlando games, are all 7 of them on NFL Network? Or is it an amount broken in between, let's say 5 are on NFL Network, 1 is on NFL Plus only, and then 1 is on DAZN, or both are on DAZN? I don't know. So it looks like sooner or later the league is going to have an announcement concerning DAZN. I guess the plus is that when it comes to NFL Network, you don't have to buy the station outright. I know you can get NFL Network just on I think $5 a month just to purchase NFL Network. Thoughts on DAZN, John? I've seen it. I've seen some stuff in the early days here in Canada when they were doing the NFL Sunday Ticket, but they have a worldwide known audience, and it could work very well if they're trying to get to, if they play, let's say they play a game overseas, or they want to get to, let's say Giancarlo as an example in Italy. He would have the option of being able to use DAZN to watch the games.
True. Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. You know, a lot of people want to stream sports. They want to be able to watch sports on their phone or their tablet, their computer. People don't always have cable, so being able to utilize
Cable? What's cable?
What's that? archaic nonsense. But I mean, myself, I prefer using like ESPN Plus, for example. So having the option to put DAZN on my Xbox or my Fire Stick or what have you and watch it wherever I want, that sounds like a win.
And it's not that expensive either. Isn't it along the same, at least I don't know what the pricing is for the US. I know what it only is for here. But aren't they along the same lines of if you just wanted to get the NFL Network by itself, you could get DAZN for like $6 a month?
It's got
something like that.
Than that.
I don't know. I mean, if you're just buying DAZN, it's not like you're getting it. You know, NFL Network includes a lot more to it. I think it also includes NFL Plus, right?
Oh, DAZN is about $20 a month right now.
20? Okay.
Yeah.
But you're getting more than that, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still not bad. We got Austin in the chat saying $20 annual for NFL Plus, and if he recalls correctly, they said you could watch all the NFL and games.
Okay. Well, that's good. Now, one thing I don't know: do they archive? No, they have to, because don't they have their own archiving service also? At least for NFL games, like, or is that part of Game Pass?
Oh, no, the NFL Network, yeah, you can watch game replays if you pay for it.
Okay, there we go. So that's part of Game Pass. I think it's Game Pass, if I remember correctly. But I haven't seen much in the chat about it, guy. I mean, has anybody else? What is their thoughts? I mean, yes, it is it's a streaming service. I know the league talked about having their own. The things we're talking about, you know, their own AFL network or whatever it may be. This is going to be part of the whole scheme where it is part of the AFL network. Has anybody in the chat, or whether you answer now, whether you answer later on after watching this on delay, what are your thoughts on DAZN potentially being the other part of the streaming service for the league this year? Because, John, if you think about this, if it is a separate contract for DAZN, can you imagine that we would potentially have upwards of 60 plus games on streaming and national TV this year? Which I can't. That would probably surpass the NBC days for a single year.
Speechless. That would be awesome. I mean, fans across the country would be able to watch their team play without actually having to go to the arena.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yep. But as you and everybody else here in the chat knows, and anybody else listening, it's always fun and better going to the arena than actually watching it on TV.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure.
So I can't, either way, I can't complain one bit. I really can't complain one bit. Anything else by looking at the schedule itself, John? Finding out about potentially about DAZN and say I'm going to try to find that graphic. If anybody finds the graphic, by the way, you can DM me on Twitter at ArenaFan, and I'll put
Just
it up.
slide right on in there.
Yes, sir. Anything else so far that we talked about, or that we haven't talked about, concern you, or that you want to bring up?
In terms of the schedule itself, nah. I think my concerns have been aired. One of them again, the Voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
and of course we just discussed the Force.
Yeah, that's one
They,
thing that we need to. Hopefully, we'll get some answers about very soon. I mean, yes, it's in week 10. Yes, everybody, including myself, it is a sprint to Arena Bowl. It's only a 10-week regular season schedule. I'm sure it'll be. They'll figure this out. And also, people have also asked the question too: is that, oh well, wait a minute, what about Arena Bowl? What about the supposed All-Star game? What about the playoffs? Well, if you do the current count of the games that are currently on the schedule, it's 30. But the press release said 30 plus. So they may just not have wanted to announce yet that playoffs and the Arena Bowl will be on NFL Network.
I would think it would be of great benefit to have those on NFL Network.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, 10, 11, and 12, they had the Arena Bowl was on there. I think Kurt Warner did one game as an example and stuff like that. And those are the days. But, but speaking of NFL Network and stuff like that, who would you want to, obviously, you don't have you may have not known as many of the announcers that I have over the years. Who would you want as, let's say, their number one crew for those Thursday night games?
Man,
and let us know in the chat too. Let us know in the chat also.
Doesn't even matter to me if it's Thursday or Sunday. If they could secure Ari and Ced to call some games together, I don't care who's playing. I would watch those games.
Well, Ced can't because he's coaching
Yeah,
with Billings. Ari can.
yeah, he certainly can. I know he's done some stuff for the Chiefs.
But that would be cool to bring him back. And I'm sure there's some other people. Kurt Warner. Would Kurt Warner do it again? Sure, I don't see why not.
Why not? If the money's right.
Yeah, I forgot about Anthony Herron. There's an old school.
I see some Ari Wolf fans there as well.
Yep. I'd love to see Ari back, for sure. I'm trying to think what else. Okay. Oh yeah, this is one of the things I want to talk about. So the big question that everybody's been asking, and on a lot of the boards and stuff like that, is what is happening when it comes to how is this being paid for? In years past for the AFL, it usually has been where the AFL would pay for production costs, and maybe they will get a sliver of advertising if they did the advertising. Because I know in the past, I think it was where a lot of the advertising went to the actual network itself. Oh, by the way, speaking of, I know he's doing radio, but let's bring in Eli Gold for a game or two, dude.
Yeah, why not?
Ari and Eli Gold? Oh, that would be amazing, actually. Two old school guys like that? I love that. But when it comes to paying or getting these games on NFL Network, John, when you saw the amount of games that were there on the schedule, What were your thoughts initially? Did you think it was a pay-to-play type of contract? Do you think it was a rights thing, kind of like what's, and this is just a reference to anybody who doesn't know, CBS Sports Network actually pays the Canadian Football League $1 million a year for their rights to broadcast the games. Do you think it's something like that, or is it a hybrid? Or I mean, you've been through the previous, couple of years when the Washington Valor, et cetera, when it came to television that way. What were your thoughts when you saw how many games there were, and did you ever think of how it was being paid for?
No, I didn't. But if we're broadcasting over 30 games, could be 34, 36, whatever. Um, that's a significant chunk of change.
Yes, but
There's got to be rights involved. The NFL doesn't do anything for free. NFL is all about the bottom line. They
mm-hmm,
they make hundreds of millions. They make billions of dollars.
mm-hmm.
So there's got to be
Just in
money
Super
involved.
Bowl ads alone.
Right. So this has got to be to their benefit.
I would think so. I would think so. I think this isn't the days. I mean, people remember too. They were on the NFL Network. The AFL was on the NFL Network in 2010 through 2012, and that was the league being reborn again too. I think it was the same way. It's basically, I think it was a pay-to-play type of thing. So if I remember correctly, but I can't. I can't remember what the specifics actually were. So. But from what I found out, and this is just through doing a little bit of digging here, and I apologize, everybody. I'm looking at my notes here. One of the main things that was made clear to me is that when I asked about is it a pay for broadcast, is it pay for production, getting a value of this, that, and the other. The one thing I was being told over and over again, John, was, and this is a quote, "We are for sure making money," unquote. So that leads me to believe that is not the old pay for play, way of doing things that it was as it was done in the past. Because when I was asking the questions, I was saying, in previous years, obviously the league was paying for production costs, et cetera, for the broadcasts.
Sure.
Even going back here down to my notes again, it was the AFL is 100% making money off the deal. Those are two different quotes. So I don't think it was in the past. I'm wondering if again, as you said, it's 30 games. It's not like ESPN where it would have less than 20.
Sure.
Maybe it is a partial revenue from this, maybe something from ads. I mean, has CBS Sports Network, has NFL Network sold all their ad rates already? Potentially, yes. So I don't know. If I can get more information, I know, and it's a little frustrating. Just I understand to some of you fans that those are the quotes that I gave when it came to how this was being paid for. But from what I'm being told, it is not the same way as it has been done in the past, where they're not paying to play. They're actually getting something out of it. So I guess there's some sort of mishmash of something where they are making some money. Not just on the revenue from ads, but maybe on from something else. So hybrid old way, hybrid way like the CFL does with CBS Sports Network. Maybe that type of thing. So, I mean, it's the only way really, I would think, for the league to actually come out smelling positive out of this, John, is that, we don't know how much, we don't know how much money it come to start up for all this type of stuff. From
Mm-hmm.
what we've known is that, you know, Travell Gaines and Lee Hutton have very good contacts. They have
Yeah.
really good contacts, and it's, you know, some are saying, well, why didn't you just go the route of YouTube? Why didn't you go the, because you can't make any money off of YouTube. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot make an exuberant amount of money off of YouTube if you're streaming something from an arena and you're only getting 600 people watching.
Yeah, there's no way.
I'm,
YouTubers, content creators, the ones that make significant money, have hundreds of millions of views.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't I don't see, again. You can question me if you want. Here we go. Hold on a second here. I got the graphic. Hold on a second here, guys. Which games are you? While I'm bringing this up here, John. Which games are you specifically looking forward to yourself that you are entertaining the idea of going to?
Mm. Let's see. I'm definitely. It would be easy for me to go to a Seoul home game in terms of travel. So, potentially a Seoul home game. I would love to be able to fly down to Orlando,
Mm-hmm.
but the way plane tickets are right now, I don't know if I want to spend $500 on a ticket just to go round trip for the day for overnight.
Yeah.
Be more than that probably. And I could certainly see myself getting up to a Firebirds game, link up with you,
Yes, sir.
some other people, some of the players I haven't seen in a while, like Darius Prince. Be nice just to chat with him in person for a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, for sure. For sure. Okay. Here we go. This is the graphic that was shown today for the during the Orlando broadcast, Orlando Predators broadcast
On DAZN.
on DAZN, and it is 7+. Remember, I was worried about that before. And if anybody can't see that, let me know. By the way, thanks. By the way, thanks out to Brian for sending it to me, so everybody could take a peek.
Yeah, I mean, every single game is going to be broadcast for the
Mm-hmm.
Predators. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, game times are subject to change. Yada yada yada. We've been saying that ever since. We've been saying that ever since they released the draft schedules back in November, whenever it was. So
Yeah, I think it was November. Actually, maybe it was. Yeah, it was November.
I think it's November.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
this actually makes me feel better, knowing that it looks more. It really does look like it is going to be a full. It's going to be two separate broadcasters. So
Yeah, and the zone's just not gonna have three Orlando Predators games on it.
exactly.
We're gonna see a full slate of games on the zone.
But look at it alone there, dude. That puts. Oh, that's weird. You can see both my things there. You can see. It's all 10 games.
Yeah,
They would have
yeah.
all 10 games that are actually broadcast on television or on streaming. I can't complain with that. So, at all. I want to remind everybody that we are doing the some of the roundtables, which I hope you guys have been watching. We've been partnering with some of the other groups, some of the other media sites out there, and we're trying to bring those to you about once a month or something like that. I know John and I are going to try to get into the swing of things here, closer to the beginning of the season. I got to decide how I want to work this out. If we're going to do a weekly thing, if we're going to do a bi-weekly thing, it depends on our schedules. I can tell you that I still have something planned for the opener in Albany, where I'm going to do an ArenaFan live from MVP Arena. It'll be like anywhere between an hour 15, hour 30 minutes before kickoff from the arena itself. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you check out all of our socials and stuff like that. If you don't know where we are, at ArenaFan on social media, on X, ArenaFan online, YouTube, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and if you want to reach out to me, you can do so at Repact. That's REPPACT. And for John, it is at 533, and it's the number 530, and then the number 3.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
50.
Nope. 553.
553. That's right. 553. So, see, as I said, everybody keeps hearing certain things, so I'm happy to hear about this.
Did you see? I know we're running short on time here, but I just noticed that Fanatics was added to the list of partners for merchandise and memorabilia.
Yes. I don't know much about it, but I know Fanatics Live does a whole bunch of stuff for like card breaks and stuff like that. And
oh yeah, and they bought the Topps company, so Fanatics owns Topps now. Yeah,
that's right. I had forgotten about that. Also, some of the unique things too when it comes to the merchandise. I know everybody's either loving or hating the idea of Humble being involved in certain things. I think like with I think it's Oregon's ticket system. It's run specifically through Humble. But then there's the Minnesota Myth merch, by the way, which is fire. It really is. But they have their, you know, on a lot of the clothes these days, John, when like NFL is something or NBA something in Major League Baseball, they have the, you know, like the holograms. So you know it's an official item. Minnesota through Humble is putting a QR code on each of the items, I guess inside the tag, and you can scan it and see if it is authentic, or to verify it is authentic on the blockchain. So
okay,
yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Thanks, Brian.
Running the league store.
Okay. And also, I've been teasing this before. I know most people don't know about this. I know we've got a couple of minutes. We've got, I think, maybe 2 minutes before we let you guys go. And again, this is, if you didn't know already, Commissioner Hutton is going to be on the Arena Football League's official podcast over on YouTube in about 8 minutes or so. But I at least wanted to show this out because I'm teasing this. It's something that I'm hoping to do, partnering with somebody, whether it's for through ArenaFan only in our new store, which is going to be launched. I'm hoping within the next month, where you can buy some limited edition stuff of ArenaFan merch, or with somebody else. But I showed John this one earlier. I love his Valor shirt, by the way. Is this, and it's part of our "If You Know, You Know" line. And I'll just show it to you, and I'll see how many of you people in the chat actually know what the hell this thing is. So here it is. Let me move my mic out of the way. Hold on. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. I'm hoping to have the Chicago politician shirts available for everybody. This was just a prototype that I had printed up, so I hope you guys, if you like them, they'll be available in the near future. So.
I'm laughing at these guys in the chat with the see-through pants.
Oh, yeah. No. I don't want to think. Actually, you know what's funny? Considering this, some of the stuff that we've seen in years past, and it's nothing against Phenom Elite, some of those pants were see-through. If you remember, especially the whites. So,
yeah, I still have all of my Phenom merch.
I do too. They made some good stuff. They made some good stuff.
Yeah.
I can't fault it. I mean, and as we're seeing too, obviously coming up, the teams are going to be having their releases soon when it comes to the uniforms. I'm hearing some amazing stuff about the uniforms. Albany going 2 helmets, John, a white helmet and a black helmet. I can only imagine. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think West Texas showed on their social media also that they're going to go with 2 helmets, and it looks very, very cool. It looks actually a lot better than what their actual logo does. So I can't complain about that. And
Okay.
Minnesota asking us to choose between one of 4 helmets. What would you rather have, the black helmet or the orange helmet?
I think I'd rather have the orange helmet.
Thank you. There you go. I would too. Let's get orange back in the league again, man. Let's get orange back in the league. All right, so we're coming up on the clock, guys. We appreciate you whenever you do join us here at ArenaFan Live. Again, stay tuned to all of our socials to find out any more information coming out from the league or any of the things that we're going to be doing in the near future. Head over to arenafan.com for all of your updated information. Any changes to the schedule, everything will be there on the master schedule. We will be switching over from historical mode into active mode very soon. So a lot of the stuff you see currently that you're wishing to see, it will be available very soon. But other than that, again, I appreciate every one of you, and especially you, John, for being here, man. Because hey, if I'd be talking to myself if you weren't here. So it's
Yeah,
I think it makes the show a little bit. Yeah, it makes the show go a little bit better. So if you happen to miss any of the show, remember it is going to be on archive over on our YouTube page. But other than that, we will see you next time. So for everybody here at Arena Fan Live, for John Stark, I'm Tim Capper. Watch the rebound of the net.